With over 400 celebrity interviews and tons of pop culture nerdiness, Too Opinionated is a safe haven for your inner geek. Find us at meistercon.com or on YouTube under MeisterCon Pod. And please subscribe. It would really help us out. Thanks, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Too Opinionated, where today I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by actor, musician, astronomer, Tim Russ. So welcome, Tim.
How are you? Nice to be here.
It's a big deal for me. I've been a fan of yours for so long, and this is just wonderful that you took a few minutes with us. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So it's Veterans Day, and of course, when this releases, it won't be, but we're recording on Veterans Day. And I know your father was in the military.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you for his service.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's my understanding. I was kind of doing my background research on you, and sounded like you did some moving around, as a lot of military families do when you were growing up.
Yes. We moved, on average, we moved every couple of years.
Yeah.
And that was for a long time. My father was in the Air Force for 20 years. So, there was a lot of relocating going on. Very commonplace in that line of work and that career.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to talk to you about all the acting stuff, but you and I have been emailing back and forth, and it was news to me that you are such an accomplished musician. So I wanted to start there if we could. And by the way, you have just a fantastic voice. I've been listening to your music, and it's wonderful. And I love that over the years, you've done, I don't know if genre is the right way to say it, but different sounds over the years. And they all sound good. They all sound good. But I was curious, what instruments do you play?
It's primarily guitar. I play electric guitar, lead rhythm, and also electric bass. And I started playing both of those types of guitars when I was about 16, 16, somewhere in there. And so over the years, what I ended up doing, of course, I took lessons at the beginning, just to get started and get all the fundamentals and basics, and then just jumped straight into playing in bands. And in doing that is when you start picking up all the tricks and learning, about rhythm. You're learning about timing, about playing ensemble playing, with other people, and making the sound come together as a unit. And over the years, I played in all kinds of different bands. I started out in I want to say hard rock initially, with the playing a lot of the supergroup covers at the time in the 1960s, 70s, and then went into R&B, and that's late 60s, early 70s R&B.
Yeah.
And then in college, I was playing folk. So it was all storyteller stuff. It's acoustic guitar, singles, solo vocals, coffee shop stuff, and literally, made money while I was in college doing that. And then after that, got out of that. I went to, once I got into upstate New York. Even before college, I played in another R&B band. So it's a 7-piece band with a horn section and all this stuff. It was fantastic.
That sounds great.
After the folk rock run, I moved down to LA and then put together another band. I was playing pop music, top 40 music for 2.5, 3 years here in LA in the clubs, and pretty consistently. And then took a break, and then came back and started playing with another band with Crescendo Records, the owner of the record company. His son, I played in his band. We toured Europe a little bit, came back, and then I put my own band together after that, and that's where I am now. So I've got my own group, and we do a pretty wide variety of stuff, and did some recording, obviously, during those years on my own, 3 or 4 CDs, and some songwriting. I don't do a lot of songwriting, and I've done some songwriting for specific film projects here and there as part of the tracks that they might use. And that's it. So now it's just playing clubs in Los Angeles when we're obviously able to again, and and performing some live Facebook live gigs with the band as well. Recently, we've been doing that, but that's where it is. I mean, I've been playing guitar for 45 years, so.
Yeah, that's terrific. We need to get you to West Virginia. You need to play some venues here. In
Yeah,
West
I'd
Virginia.
love to. I don't, getting out of here with a band is all about, how much it's going to cost to do it. Because you got to fly everybody out there, put everybody up. Then you got the fees for the bands and all that good stuff. And I don't have a tour manager. I don't have anybody that books my gigs for me. It's just me. So if I go play, we performed on a cruise earlier this year. I played in Germany. I played in London. I played in Amsterdam. We were supposed to perform this year in Germany and London again.
Oh, wow.
Before all of this stuff happened. So I don't know if we're going to get to it in 2021 or not, but we were already invited to go play. We were going to go play.
Yeah.
So if it happens, we will be there and do that. But those trips are all, anywhere you go outside, if you got to play, play in Vegas. You've been playing in Vegas every other year or so at a couple of functions that are there. So if you're going to do that anywhere, you have to pay you got to get the flights covered. You got to get the venue covered. You want to make sure that whatever the venue is you're playing at, you have enough people there that are going to enjoy it. To begin with, I mean, we'll do, on average, we just do performance sets, 45 to an hour, but we could do, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, if we had to, and stuff is mostly going to be, stuff that people could jam to or dance to. It's not too much trouble to do that kind of stuff. So it would also depend on what kind of gig it's going to be as well.
Yeah, for sure. I know we have a pretty well known. It's a live performance, but it's a radio, like a nationally syndicated radio program called Mountain Stage here that brings in acts throughout the year. That's where I think you and your band would be perfect for. You got
if it's like a festival or something like that, that's a different thing, because we just played Long Beach Blues Festivals half ago. And that was a great gig. That was a lot of fun. It was just a wonderful gig. We played a festival up in Sacramento for 2 or 3 years in a row. It was the Rib Fest up there. Oh my God, I missed that one. I missed that one. Ouch.
That's the perfect one too.
That's the perfect one, right?
So do you have a favorite band name of one of your bands that you played in growing up?
I think, let me see. No, not really a favorite. I mean, we had the names at the time that we came upon. Peace Unlimited was one. The Course of Force was one. We had
I like that one.
Yeah, Course of Force. The hardest thing about a band is not necessarily the rehearsing and booking the gigs and stuff. It's just figuring out what kind of name you're going to have for your band. That literally is the hardest part, putting together a group. Is just, what the hell is our name going to be? Because that's your handle everywhere you go, and that's what people remember. So, and I think what was the one I had here in LA? I'm trying to remember what that one was. It's on the tip of my tongue. I'll remember it a bit, but the one that I had here, it was pretty decent as well. And like I said, it all comes down to what you guys can agree on as far as the name goes.
That's right.
and nowadays, for God's sakes, it's something that somebody else doesn't have. If you can find one that nobody else has, if you come up with a name, you got to Google it to make sure that it's not trademarked, or some other 3 bands have the same name and they've got a higher profile than you, so you can't use theirs.
I know. Try running a podcast. Same problem.
We didn't have that issue. Didn't have that issue before, because nobody would know. Nobody would have any clue as to whether or not somebody in Idaho had the same group name as you did, and they already had 12 albums out and you had none. So
that's right. Then you got to change it.
Then you got to change it. Yeah.
I used to get a kick out of watching Parks and Rec, and Chris Pratt, he had a band on the show, but every episode they were changing the band name. And it got to the point where he couldn't even remember what their band name was at that
All right.
time.
All right. That's funny. That's a
Yeah.
funny gag,
I
man.
thought that
Yeah,
was
I like their
good.
style. I like their style. It's always that reality sort of almost documentary style of
Yeah.
doing it. And it's a natural sort of human way of their comedy. And there's some satire in it, but it's just so subtle. I dig that style
I
of
do
comedy.
too.
I think didn't Office, what is it? The Office have the same kind. It was
Oh yeah,
Carell. They had the same
absolutely.
kind of
Yeah.
down. It's a real, it's not a 1, 2, 3 joke, 1, 2, 3 joke
Right.
set up like a sitcom has. It's a very different style, and that natural sort of style is I love that the way that works. Yeah, and yeah, the band name, like the name that my band name like now is just basically my name, because as
Yeah.
much as I'd like to have a band name that's different than that, I've already recorded with my name, so I'm stuck with it.
Well, yeah, because if you want people to find you, they may not
They're
find you.
not gonna. They would never find me. So
Yeah.
I would, if I had my choice, I'd love to go for something different. I just don't have the choice. It has to have my name in it,
Yeah.
and
That's right.
it's just you're kind of limited as to what you could do. So,
Well, so I watched your video for We. It was We, right?
yes, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah, it had, I really like that one.
Thank you.
I really like that one. That was,
Thank you. That's
a fun one. It was very I don't know what it's almost a little techno.
Yes, the song was deliberately designed to be a techno retro sort of throwback in
Well, that's
style.
what the feel it had, almost like a 80s techno type.
Absolutely. That was done on purpose. And I wanted to use, I was inspired because I wrote it like in one afternoon. It was just because I, had been on the phone with some, customer service,
right.
Whatever it was, for, I don't know how long, I was just forever having to call back because I got cut off, having a bad connection, trying to get something done. It was an absolute nightmare that day. And I was so frustrated. I just literally I just scribbled that song down in like an hour. And I had my keyboard player, and he and I put the arrangement together, and then we recorded it. And I was just that's in that song. It's that scream in the song is the frustration. And and I wanted to put in the video all the older forms of communication. So the switchboard, the telephone.
Yeah, I love that.
And just the fact that you're if they're selling you some crap, they'll be on the phone, in about a second and a half, and charge you 12 times whatever the cost would normally be. And they're happy to have you right there. But the second you have that, whatever it is, you can't find them again. You don't even exist anymore. So that's where that thing is. And it's not going away. It's not becoming less of that. It's becoming more.
Not.
So,
right.
And everybody's got to deal with it 100% across the board. So, that's what that song is inspired by.
Yeah. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. That was a fun one too.
Thank you.
I wasn't expecting it because the song before that I was listening, you were playing the guitar. It was very bluesy.
That's correct. Yes.
And I switched to that one. I was like, oh, that's
yeah.
nice.
It was the other track is a cover, and that one was done. That was done for an associate of mine who wanted to test their camera, and because they were going to use it on a shoot, and they wanted to do a test of it in these different sort of lighting conditions and things. So they said, do we have a ballad? Do I have a ballad that'll work for this video? And all my songs were more or less up tempo. I didn't have any ballads that I had written and recorded. So I said, well, how about this one here? It's a cover track. We can try this one. And they loved it. So we just shot the video to that song. And that's where that video came from. Otherwise, I wouldn't necessarily have shot, a video to that song. It was their idea, their setup,
it looked good. It was.
Yeah, they did a great job on it.
Yeah.
They did a great job. It was the same DP. I used that DP that cinematographer to shoot the Wii video as well. So
yeah,
he set up all the different scenes and scenarios in there. So he did a great job.
Yeah,
Mario,
that's
great.
fun.
He's great. Yeah,
I really, I'm a long time nerd. You know, a fanboy, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
I love the fact that I was such a fan of yours. Had no idea that you were a musician. It's been a good week because I love digging into that stuff and you know, learning something new about something. Admire it. It's a lot of fun. Enjoyed that. How did you go from music to acting? You've been doing music for so long. I'm assuming that you started that first.
Yeah, that's true. And the acting came while I was still high school. So it was shortly after I started playing. When I first started playing, I was like 14 or 15. And then in high school at 16, I was 16, 17, I started studying. I started taking classes, and then I got in a couple of the musicals at the time on stage, and it was an absolute thrill. And I decided, well, I'm going to go study this in college. So I went to study it in college for 5 years, and then came back to California after that. So it was just becoming enamored with it and hooked with it from being on stage when I was in high school. I just absolutely adored it. It was so much fun. It was so exhilarating. And so I just thought to go study it, and the college, you know, went to school in Texas, Austin, Texas, actually.
Yeah.
And it was a great school. They had a great program, and still do, I think. But at the time it was set up as almost like an internship. It was an internship type program, or apprenticeship. It was set up so that you had a very heavy focus on your major from year one.
Right.
So it wasn't like you had to wait, you know, for 2 years before you could really, you know, get into the stuff. It was a very small school. So I didn't have, you know, 10,000 people to compete with for an opportunity to be on stage or to work in certain capacities. And it was theater on campus. It was called St. Edward's University. A wonderful school, and it was such a small group of us that were working that we all had a lot of opportunities to work in the different areas of theater.
Yeah, that's good.
And they would design the program so that you could come out after 4 years, and theoretically you could open up your own theater because you learn every aspect of how to run a theater. Everything from acting in shows to directing to lighting to sound to box office to costumes to construction. Everything you could work on in every area, you had a chance to do it. Yeah, really good program at the time. And on top of that, they brought in celebrities from Hollywood to be in the plays, the main stage shows every year. So there 4, 5, 6, 7 main stage shows we did. We did a summer stock, and then we did the regular school year, and the students would perform with those lead actors, celebrity actors, in the shows, you know, for the general public. And that's how they got their crowds to come to watch the shows. So
that's a smart idea. That's
fantastic.
Really good.
Fantastic. Couldn't have been better. I was very lucky.
Do you have somebody that you remember performing with that were you awestruck at any time? Do you have anybody you were an admirer of?
Well, let's just say that in hindsight, there was some serendipity as to one of the actors that they brought out. Before I arrived to the school, it was only a couple of 3 years, they brought out William Shatner.
Oh my goodness.
That's before I got there. Yeah. While I was there, I got a chance to work with Leonard Nimoy.
Oh, wow. Now, how about that?
Yes. How about that?
Foreshadowing.
How about that indeed? Yes. So I worked in a play with him called Caligula. So it was really wonderful to get a chance to meet him and to work with him. It was just a thrill. It was a big deal at that time. And I worked with several other actors that were Al Lewis, who played Grandpa in the Munsters.
Yeah.
I worked with Greg Morris from the series Mission Impossible back in the day. Donnie Most I worked with from Happy Days. There's a whole lot of people that we really got a chance to work with. Very lucky.
Terrific. Yeah, we just had Greg's son Phil came on the show. Phil Morris.
Yes, I know Phil. He's very cool.
Yeah,
very
yeah,
cool.
Phil's
Very nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guy. What a great school. Did it allow you to? Because Austin's a pretty good music town. Did it allow you to kind of pursue your music stuff as well? I mean, did you go into town and perform at some of the clubs or anything?
When I was in Austin, I was performing primarily on campus. I did the campus had a coffee house set up there, and that's where I started performing live. Started performing live in the acoustic solo folk song kind of stuff. So I was doing all of that, and then went to graduate school for another year and a half up in Illinois and worked in a coffee house up there to make some extra money playing in the coffee house up there. And that's, having performed in all these different bands and these different genres, I had to do the vocals for them all. So that's where I end up. That's where I end up with a playlist of stuff that I've recorded. That's a pretty wide variety, because I've played and sung a lot of different styles over the years. So it hasn't been just one thing. And
it served you well.
It did serve me well, yes, and it helped a lot, yes.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you remember what your first acting job within Hollywood was?
The first professional gig I did was actually done while I was still in college. When I was in Austin, Texas, I worked on Masterpiece Theater for PBS. I worked with Glenn Turman at the time in a show that came through there. It was casting local. I got a chance to read for it and booked it, and so I was able to work with him in this Masterpiece Theater scene. I was able to get my SAG card at that time. And I also worked in another show that was a local show, that was a regional show that was booked there, called The Corner. La Esquina. It was Hispanic, was an Hispanic-based cast, but it was sort of a mixed cast at the same time. And it was, I did like 4, 5, 6 episodes of that, sort of like sitcom kind of thing, and a family show. And so I was on that for several episodes before I left, before I left Los Angeles, before I left Austin. Then I came out to LA after that. So that was the very first professional gigs I booked. Once I got to LA, the first break that I had here in Los Angeles, when I call it a break, it was actually on live theater, which was Dreamgirls with Jennifer Holliday. When the show came to LA, the lead actor he booked a feature film or something. He left, and they had to move all the roles up, the male roles up in terms of slots. So it left the 4th male principal slot open, and they auditioned for it, and I booked it. And so I was on the show for 3.5 months here in town. And then the show left, and once the show left, the other actor came back and took over the role that he had. So that was the first really big gig that I got a chance to book while in town. And then from there, a year or so and a half after that, I finally got a break on a Paramount feature film called Fire with Fire. So I shot that, and that was the break. That was the break for film and television that launched me off. From there, I went to do a couple other films, Streets of Fire, and a couple of commercials here and there, and then started booking television.
I remember that. I think the first time I remember seeing you on TV was on Hill Street Blues.
The TV stuff really took off after I worked on the 2 films. I did Crossroads. I did that. Ironically enough, in Crossroads, I played Charlie. What is it? And I can remember his name. The blues singer, Robert Johnson.
You know what? I remember that movie.
Yeah, I played his character in it. Yeah, and had to work with Ry Cooder on. I had to work with Ry Cooder on guitar. It was great. We had to play this. We played and sung the original song of Crossroads, and we played it in the original style, which is with a slide guitar, and it's a really funky tune. It's not the way that it normally is played, but play it rather. But and I still play that song in my band, ironically enough. But that one went to that one. From there, I started booking television projects, a couple of series here and there, and then a bunch of episodics, movies of the week. Back in the day, it was movies of the week. Booked a lot of those things, and and then again series down the line, that just took off. It was a busy time for me then. Once you got into the wheel, you know, you get different networks and shows that are called on you because you're booking projects, and they see that, and you got the credits, and it just keeps self-perpetuating once it gets going. So it's good.
Not hard to get in there. It's difficult to get into that.
Oh, it's a monster, and it can be a monster once you get rolling. I mean, there are gaps and breaks and times when you're not doing anything for a while, and you simply, you know, haven't or can't book anything for a spate of time, and you got to hope that you've got your money that you're living off of during that time. That's when I'll say that it's beneficial to be in the union, to have for the union to have garnered in their agreements to be able to have garnered residuals, because your residuals, your license fees and things like that, and royalties, those are what keep you alive in between jobs, and because of reruns and syndication, that's what keeps you alive. So without those, without that setup and without that kind of money coming in for the back end on these projects, you'd be hard pressed unless you're on a major series and you're able to bank some really big bucks for a while and put them away. If you're just working job to job, you can't survive that way.
Yeah, it'd be really really tough. Of course, you know, you're well known from your time on for your role in Spaceballs, and I always thought that was it. I always wondered what you thought of that, because it was a relatively small part, but everybody knows it.
Oh yeah, Spaceballs at the time was a relatively small part. It was just a couple of days or so in the Arizona desert. We shot out there. Mel Brooks, a wonderful guy, very nice, really sweet man. We did the gags, and that was it. And I didn't think anything about it. You know, I had pretty much forgotten about it for, I want to say, a couple of decades. And then I was directing a project up in on East Coast Virginia, I think it was, at a production company out there. And one day the crew was sitting around on a break or something, a lunch break, and they were talking about Spaceballs. They were talking about movies. And Spaceballs came up, and they just went bananas about that, and were just, you know, yucks and laughing, and all the recall of all the bits and stuff. And I was standing there overhearing it, and I just told them, well, you know who was combing the desert, don't you? And they looked at me, and their jaws dropped. And I mean dropped. And they were absolutely staggered to know that I was in Spaceballs doing that bit. And the next day, they all brought their copies of the movie in for me to sign.
Of course.
And I, at that point, from there forward, I realized that it had become this cult classic.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think about it. I didn't, you know, I hadn't seen it in ages. I hadn't really watched it. I don't have a copy of it. I'm not going to see it unless I watch it or see it on television or whatever. And so I didn't really think about it. And then after that, every time the word was mentioned, and I do mean every time, that people just, there isn't anyone who doesn't like Spaceballs.
That's right.
Mean, across the board. I mean, E.T.
I've never met anybody that doesn't like it.
Yeah, E.T. had a huge following, a huge thumbs up following. And I thought that was big. Spaceballs is even bigger. And people knew me from Spaceballs, one little scene in Spaceballs, more than 7 years on Voyager. And I kid you not, that's the truth. People in Voyager, people like Star Trek, what? Voyager, what?
Yeah.
But Spaceballs all day long. And they know the lines, and they know the scenes, and they know the role.
Isn't that amazing?
I'm like, okay. So when I went to do conventions recently, I actually broke out some photographs for me and Spaceballs, and people sure enough, everybody who comes to the table,
that's what they're
awestruck that it's that. And I'm like, it's just literally 4 words. That's what it was.
I've got do you want to say your 4 words? You want to say your line?
Oh, is it? We ain't found shit.
Oh shoot! I've always had this running joke with my wife and the kids that if I was ever on a show that became a cult classic, even if I just had just a tiniest part, I would live off of that for the rest of my life. I'd hit every convention. I'd show up at birthday parties. I'd have if I'd been in Spaceballs combing the desert, you'd never get rid of me.
Yeah, well, you know, there might have been a few people here and there at some of the signing shows or places, conventions I've been to that, you know, had some kind of role, in some movie somewhere that, you know, that may have been a big cult classic, and, you know, they may have had a significant role, or they may have had the lead role or whatever. So they do show up at the shows and things. I personally probably wouldn't, you know, necessarily go book a convention on just that alone, but if I'm already there for Voyager,
why not?
I'll throw it in the hat, you know, because people do recognize it, they do remember it, and especially in a show that's got a pretty wide selection of people coming to the convention. Mostly the Star Trek fans are interested in pretty much Star Trek, but you know, if it's a general signing show, yeah, sure, why not? They might get a kick out of it. They might buy it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Do you? Were you a Star Trek fan growing up?
Not well. What happened when I was growing up obviously is different than it is today, because we only had 3 networks, you know, to watch television on, and so the syndicated shows that were on, I could tell you the dialogue and the stories from all of them because that's all we saw. So
that's all you saw.
Twilight Zone, you know, I Love Lucy, Gilligan's Island.
Of course.
Andy Mayberry, right?
I Dream of Jeannie.
I Dream of Jeannie and Star Trek, and they just played them constantly.
Yeah.
So I knew the series when I was in college, high school to college, post-college. Yeah, they were on all the time. And eventually I've seen all of them about 100 times. So we knew the episodes, we knew the gags, we knew the plots, we knew the dialogue. And so coming into Trek, yeah, I had that as a background. If it hadn't been for that, I don't know if I would have watched it that much. They are good stories, no question about it.
Yeah.
Because of the style, you know, if you had, and I guess they're doing the Star Wars series now, Mandalorian. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it, so I don't know what the nature of their stories are. But Star Trek has always been a story-based, theme-based series. It's not, you know, about just blowing stuff up and shooting at things and whatever. That's not what it is. It's not an action show it's a people show. It's a character show. It's a theme show. It's about, you know, character, and it's about ideology. It's about social themes that play out in real time. So, and it's about difficult decisions. It's about people's relationships and with other cultures and things like that. This is what that show is about, and it's always been about the story and the moral sort of play that goes through it, rather than just blowing up stuff and dealing with things. And
that's right. I think that's why the appeal of it.
Yeah, that is where that show's appeal occurs.
Yeah,
and they do have their fans that are very enthusiastic. There's not a huge number of them. They're just a very loyal following of the number that do have them. And a lot of people just don't care for the stuff because you have to deal with the storylines and things, and the elements in the thing are science fiction based, and some of them pseudoscience based, and you got to wrap your head around some of the concepts here and there because they do deal with that.
Absolutely.
And people don't have, you know, their head starts to hurt. They can't watch that stuff.
Yeah, it's and there's science fiction shows that aren't this way, most of them, but it's very intelligent. Yeah, it's very intelligent sci-fi. You know,
it's intelligent sci-fi.
Not dumbed down for everybody.
No, it is not, and that is not for everybody. They'd rather just watch some mush that goes by without them having to think about anything. You know, not even sci-fi related, but you know, that's a little less cumbersome as far as their thought processes, and they're just not going to get into it. You know, the franchise, you know, has also always been sort of stigmatized by the media. They always, you know, sort of a lot of times they lampoon her to make fun of it
That's right.
because of people that are, you know, absolutely addicted to it and just hardcore fans of it.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I can take that, I guess, but you know, I personally don't see any difference between that and somebody who dresses up in spray paints their bodies 3 different colors and puts on a giant silly looking clown wig and jumps up and down at the end zone of a, you know, of a football stadium.
That's right.
I don't see how that's any different than
It's not.
dressing up in
That's a good way to look at it. It's not any different.
Yeah. That kind of fanaticism, man, it mystifies me, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, I'll catch a football game now and then on television, but I'm not, you know, jumping around with soda
You're not painting your
beer
chest
cans on my head. No, I'm not doing any of that. So, you know.
So I know that you had been on Star Trek a few times before Voyager came along, and I saw that, you know, you had tested for Geordi. And I was curious, did those relationships that you built there, did that help you getting the role of Tuvok on Voyager?
Yeah, I think they more or less led from one sort of hurdle to the next, because they kept bringing me back to read for stuff. And I read for DS9. I read for as a regular. I read for the you know, I read for the episodics. I eventually booked some. I read for the feature, booked that, and then eventually Voyager was, because Rick Berman was the producer on co-producer on all of those other projects, and then he became exec producer, so he could make a decision. He could make the call himself. And you know, he talked to me about it when I was filming Generations, and he had already mentioned it to me that it was going to be possible that I would come in to read for that role. And they've used other actors who've done Trek projects prior. They've used them again in other Trek projects, and that was just the way they did things. So it just turns out I was purely and simply in the right place, right time, and I was right for the role. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. I mean, I could have been.
I saw, you know, you've played a few different aliens, but you played a Klingon. You got to play a Vulcan. That was kind of neat. And I saw you had the record for being on camera with the most different Star Trek captains. You had
correct.
7.
Yes, that is correct.
It's not even close. I think the next one was Jonathan Frakes with 4.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Do you have a favorite Voyager episode?
Well, I think there's just the one I enjoyed shooting was Future's End 1 and 2. I just enjoyed working on that two-part episode, because we were shooting in Los Angeles in the springtime. It's beautiful weather, and we were outside the studio, running around in different locations in Los Angeles, everything from the beach to downtown where the theater complexes were. Episodes. Oh, they were just a riot, and I was working with Sarah Silverman the whole time, and she was just lovely, and she's joking all the time, and we were laughing all the time.
That was early Sarah Silverman.
That was early Sarah Silverman, yes, and she was great. She was wonderful to work with, and we just had a blast, and I enjoyed it so much, having the opportunity to work with those guys in those 2 episodes. That was just fun for me. To work on. The other episodes, you know, some of them were really intense. Some of them had some really cool stuff to do in them, but just overall, just for being able to get off the soundstage for a minute and
just enjoying it.
Oh, just enjoying it, man. Those 2 episodes were, they turned out to be my favorites. Yeah.
I've got a couple for me. I love the one that, and I didn't realize that you had directed it, but you directed. I'm gonna look because I don't.
Oh, Living Witness, yes.
Living Witness. I love that one. That's and I think a lot of people do. That was and I didn't realize that you had directed that, but that was.
I was very lucky. I was very lucky to draw that, because if you're you know, signed on to be able to direct an episode, you have to take what they give you. Right. And I could have just as easily gotten, you know, more of a dog episode, something I did. Oh my God, I don't want that thing. You know, I was so happy to get that episode, and I loved the theme of that episode personally. I love history is a hobby of mine, so I really enjoy all aspects of history and all different periods in time in history. To be able to look at a storyline that deals with revisionist history and how it affects culture in the future. the relationship of different ethnic cultures in the future is really fascinating. I mean, you can apply that to real time, you know, because we currently live in our world, in our societies. The relationships between all the groups of people out there are all based on what happened in the past, how those relationships developed in the past. And in some cases, if you go back far enough, do we really know, you know, what happened in those times? Do we really know
That's right.
that
Yeah.
A, B, or C happened? And the way we look at it now and the way it's portrayed on film and television, or the way that the stories are told and relayed to people and passed on, you know, are those accurate or are they not? And some of them become a legend, they become myth, they become religion, and we don't know because we weren't there. So that episode to, you know, to deal with the dilemma of whether you inform an entire culture that their history is wrong and cause just, you know, a nightmare of upheaval because of it, whether to do that or whether to leave it like it is just for the sake of the piece. Fascinating. That's Trek. That's what.
That's right. Which is one of the reasons I liked it so well.
Yeah,
because it really does.
Yeah.
That's a Trek episode.
100%. That's what they deal with. That's what they like to wrestle with. It's very cool.
Yeah. The other one that I always enjoyed was Flashback. You know, the crossover with
George Takei,
Undiscovered Country. You know, 6. I thought that was so neat that they went back, kind of put you in those scenes.
That's right. And they did it very clever. That was.
Oh, it really was, especially at that time. Yeah, that was a pretty, and yeah, of course, George and Grace Whitney Rand, Janice Rand, but see, that was so neat seeing them kind of in those scenes as well, and that was such a fun episode as a fan.
It was, that was a brilliant piece that was so well done. Brandon Braga wrote that piece, and he's a wonderful writer. Just incredible. Yeah, and you know, he was doing First Contact at the same time. He was writing that as well. So, I mean, come on, man, that's a lot of work to come down on at the same time. And I think when we shot that sequence with George Takei on the bridge, we reshot the sequence. We didn't use the footage from the feature film. We actually shot.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Right, you couldn't.
That's correct. They were going to, but the director at the time thought, you know, I'd like to recreate that whole sequence, you know, on the set, and we did. So we reshot that whole piece.
Yeah.
So
that was a fun one. You know, those are the ones that you just love, and you did. You got to do a mirror image, you know, a version of yourself on Deep Space Nine. That was a fun one for fans.
Yeah.
They do a lot of. There's a lot of goodwill created with the fans. I think when they do episodes like that, kind of
the crossovers. Yeah, the crossovers were really. It was kind of cool to be able to go. You know, I'm literally on the set on the studio lot. It's just right across the alley, was where they were shooting. And I used to go over there and you know, bother them every once in a while anyway, just go over there and harass them for the hell of it. So, and it was always fun to do that anyway, but to be able to go over there and work with them was you know, a kick. I mean, I think we did 2 of them. Did we do 2 of those things? I think we did 2, didn't we? I think I was over there twice. I was over there twice.
I think there was 2 of them. Yeah, I think
there was 2 of them. Yeah.
Did you ever run back into to Leonard Nimoy? Did you get to discuss, you know, that you'd worked with him, you know, back in college?
Yeah, I did. I ran into him once at a convention, actually a couple of times at a convention, just briefly, and then I ran into him when we did the dedication to I think it was George Takei on Hollywood Boulevard. We did
that's great.
I ran into him then, and we spoke just briefly then. I've got a picture of myself talking to him actually on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, so it's great. Yeah, we did. Really, he was a wonderful man, a very, very sweet guy. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, that was a big loss, and that.
I know.
But yeah, he was such a great guy. So I have to ask you. I know you're into astronomy.
Yes.
You know what are you watching right now? Were you out there on Halloween night checking out this so-called blue moon, or you know, what are you out there looking around?
Generally what I'll do is I belong to the Astronomical Society of Los Angeles, and when we didn't have COVID, I would take the telescopes up to Griffith Observatory.
Yeah, I've been up there.
With the Astronomical Society, and we'd set up all our scopes on the front lawn of Griffith, and the general public could come in and look at some stars and the planets and the moon.
Oh, neat.
Because that's basically all you can see, in the city. It's there's not much else because of the city lights and things.
The lights, yeah.
So, but the people are absolutely fascinated by the planets, and the moon and all that good stuff, and they've never seen anything like that before. So we all bring our own equipment up there, set it up, and let the public come up for 2 or 3 hours up there at the Griffith. And that's what I normally would be doing once a month, which I've been doing the past 3 or 4 years, roughly on average. And then we go to dark skies. We have a dark sky site that we go to. We take our stuff out there, and we do the everything from astrophotography to viewing and things like that with the larger telescopes that we own. I own about 6 or 7 of them. So, and now I'm doing a demo for one that's called a unistellar EV scope, which is a telescope that also images. So it's a combination of an imaging telescope and a regular telescope. It's a combination of the two that will be able to pull the more faint objects that are out there into view, even within the city and the city lights. It can cancel and filter out city lights. So I can see these objects that I've been looking at for years with an optical telescope and be able to image them with a lot more detail and clarity through the eyepiece. And that is the scope that I had just gotten to. I've been given to as an ambassador to go ahead and demonstrate for the people up at Griffith Park just before COVID hit, and it shut all that down. And I'm like, oh my God! So when I get a chance to again, I will go back out. So all I've done now is I've done my own imaging and taken the images from what I can see in the eyepiece and posted those online for the last 3 or 4 or 5 months, and it's been really good. I'm very happy with how it works. I'm happy with it. It's a high-end telescope. It's not inexpensive, but it also does a lot, and it's extremely easy to use. So there's not a lot of tech knowledge you have to use this thing for what it can gather and what it can do. I am absolutely amazed at it. And it's small and it's portable. It's literally 2 pieces. That's it.
That's hard to believe.
Put it together. Yeah, once you put it together, man. My regular scopes, I've got eyepieces and sight scopes and all kinds of crap, plugging in batteries or whatever it comes out to.
Yeah.
The thing is all self-contained, and it's literally 2 pieces. Once you put them together, you're off of the races, and it runs off your cell phone, a cell phone app.
Really?
So, yep. It's all automated. It's got Wi-Fi built in, so it talks to your phone. It's got GPS. It takes the GPS off your phone so it knows exactly where it is. It can find itself based on the stars that are up there, what it can find in the viewfinder. It'll look for a pattern and it'll lock itself in. It knows exactly where you are. You don't have to enter a single ounce of data. And that far surpasses the other computerized telescopes that are out there. So I'm absolutely amazed. The optical scopes I have already, I still need those because this one is amazing as it is, does not work on planets and the moon and things like that because they're too bright. So I still have to use the other telescopes, which is fine. And I keep those and I use those for people if they want to go up to Griffith. If I get back there, I'll take both of these types of scopes up there.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It will return someday.
It will someday. So, but yes, astronomy has been a hobby of mine. I've always enjoyed it. It's been 35 years of
that's great.
Studying it. I appeared on this last season of NASA's Unexplained Files. I was on there for about 4 episodes as a contributor as well.
That's great.
I've always been fascinated with the space science and astronomy. Astrophysics and also planetary astronomy as well. So
yeah, it's so interesting. So when you set up at Griffith, are you going to get behind these people looking at your telescope? Are you going to hit them with some Tuvok lines while they're looking for
no. Generally, I do not, because they're almost always asking me stuff about what they're looking at, or they ask me about astronomy in general. So if I have a discussion with anyone about anything, it's generally to do with the stars,
yeah.
the creation of the universe, the way stars work, or the objects.
It has to be really, I think, kind of unique that you've got several different areas that you're kind of prolific in, you're knowledgeable about, so you can have conversations with different groups of fans on different things that you do, where most people, they do the one thing really well, that's what everybody wants to talk about. You've actually got several different things. It's really neat.
Yeah. I mean, it's and that just comes from being on alive for X number of years. I could not have made that same claim when I was 25, but I can definitely make that claim now, just because of the time that I've had that has accumulated, and the time I've had to pursue, the things I've had to, been able to do. There was music and astronomy, and which are the two main hobbies that I have.
Right.
There isn't really much else that I could claim as a hobby. I've been a scuba diver for about 30 years off and on, and I can claim that as a hobby, but it's just it's a pastime,
It's a pastime.
Yeah.
Is there anything coming up that we should look for as far as astronomy wise? We have anything that that you can see with the naked eye, that type of thing?
Not currently. We just had a comet not long ago. Comet Neowise was up for a minute, and you could have seen that early in the morning and maybe later at night with binoculars for a while. That was the last comet we had. Atlas was before that. There's no super bright comets coming up. Even the sun is kind of boring right now. There's no activity on the sun, which is what I was hoping to get. I was hoping to get this year. I just bought a really expensive sun filter, and I want to be able to see some things with that. There's very little because there's no sunspot activity right now. Yeah. There was years ago when I was doing, I don't want to say 7 or 8 years ago, it was pretty busy, but now it's not, and it should be. And it's a quiet period of time. It's a little longer than it normally would be. So everybody's scratching their head, wonder what's going on.
What's going on? They usually pretend something big is coming.
Yeah, there's no incidents that I can think of that are besides, like I said, most of the things that comes through the solar system that come close to Earth are comets. Comets are usually what I keep an eye out for. If there are some that are expected to show up, and hopefully they get bright enough to be able to see, preferably with the naked eye. And if those are seen with the naked eye, they're really wonderful in the telescopes, and those are great to be able to view. Obviously a total eclipse is great when they happen, but there's nothing that we're going to be able to see, certainly in Southern California, that's coming anytime soon. That's, all that spectacular.
If you watch a lot of sci-fi like I do, that's a bad sign when it's quiet.
Yeah, the last this last close approach of Mars was very nice. That was actually something pretty nice to look at. I would have loved to have been able to go up to Griffith and take a look at it while it was close by. You could see some features on the surface which you rarely can see.
That would be cool.
Yeah, so we're I'm waiting for the next asteroid strike into Jupiter or whatever it might be to happen.
Whatever it is, you'll be there.
That's why I own the telescopes. That's why I have them. I wait for those moments.
What a great hobby.
Yeah, it's very cool. That's
great.
Really do.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for doing this. This has been such a highlight for me. I was just thrilled to death that you agreed to come on. And I got to mention for you before we wrap up, you are helping us out with our audio podcast the last Saturday night, and I know you did some recording with Jennifer Nash yesterday, and I heard that it went great. She's such a big fan of yours.
Yeah. She's wonderful. What I'm going to do for her podcast, play a character in her podcast called Uncle Alan, who's a clarinet player, a jazz clarinet player.
Yeah.
I tried to, I know because it's based on a real person. I was hoping she might find, well, could he be a jazz guitarist? That way
I told her that. I was like, how about guitar?
I can actually just play. I can just, get through all of that a lot easier. But because it's based on a real person, it has to be clarinet. So, and obviously it's a podcast. It's not a,
that's right.
That's actual, right. It's not.
Well, we're having such a good time with it. It's a great cast, and it's, the stories are all based on true stories and real people. So I think that's kind of kind of neat. But yeah, so we got Jennifer got to appear on Next Generation back when with Sir Patrick. She got to play Barrabas, his daughter, and she's always just been a huge Trek fan, and I let her know that I was speaking with you, and she just went nuts. She's like, you have to ask him to be on our podcast. I was like, okay, I'll ask. And you agreed to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's I can do it. So I can record it here at home, which makes it really easy.
Yeah.
The role is fine. It's a cool part, and I can just pop those off and send them in, and then you guys cut them together, and bingo, man. There's your podcast. I enjoy doing radio plays, and I've done a lot of them over the past, and I do enjoy doing those. I particularly enjoy doing them when it's as a group, whether it's on stage or whether it's in a studio where we can all record at the same time, and have the energy of everybody in real time doing the bits and pieces. But if it's going to be done via Zoom or done at home separately, that's fine, as long as everybody can cut it together and put in the sound effects and all that good stuff for the actual podcast. Then I don't, it's fine, and I'll still participate in it. It's kind of cool. I love radio plays, and I love those kinds of readings. So they're a lot of fun.
That's terrific. Well, so is there anything, I know it's been kind of slow with everything that's been going on, but anything upcoming that you have coming out that we can keep an eye out for?
Yeah, I finished directing a project called Slayer, which features actually my daughter in the lead role, which is a feature film I directed up in Sacramento not long ago. It's a sort of a horror vampire sort of thing, genre.
We like that.
Very, very straightforward formula kind of thing, and I directed that up in there. That's in post-production right now. It's called Slayer Chronicles. The trailer, I think I have it on my YouTube channel by now. It's Slayer Chronicles. You can look up the trailer for it. Also,
you worked with your daughter before, right?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I worked with her on a film called Junkie, which has also been released this last year, 2019. Junkie with Christian Kane, Eve Morrow, and so that's going to be out. That's going to be Anna Easteden plays the lead role in that as well, and Herman Wilkinson. It's going to be out. It's out now, and it's on Amazon and a few other places. Also, and it's a good drama. It's a strong female character that has this really cool arc in her life.
Yeah.
Starting from rock bottom and coming up and becoming.
Everybody's looking for stuff to watch. So
this hero, and also the science fiction project Fifth Passenger, which I work as an actor in. Fifth Passenger features Doug Jones, myself, Armin Shimmerman.
Oh wow.
Manu, yes, Intirimi. So there's a whole bunch of people in it, and also it's a really cool sci-fi story, and very different and very unique, and it's got a nice twist to it. So that is out on Amazon as well, and there's and I think even on YouTube. I think it's also on YouTube, obviously with commercials and things like that. But and I'm directing a project starting in December. I'll be directing a series pilot presentation called The Efficient. While I'll be directing, that's what I'm working on right now. I was getting ready to do that, and a project Amanara, which is for the Atomic Network, which is based on the younger version of Nichelle when she was a younger woman. Just starting out. It's based on her character. Omanara is the character, and it's very cool. It's a very cool piece. Really cool. Sci-fi sort of action contemporary piece. It's going to be very cool. I'm directing the pilot presentation for that as well. And
I love that you're so willing to do some of those, kind of, and not fan films, but kind of fan film type of connections with Star Trek, where you get, the ones that they're not necessarily going to get made unless you just get out there and make them. And you've done some really good things with that.
Yeah, well, if you know, those projects, they just, you know, generally they just call me or they email me and
Yeah.
out of the blue and say, you know, would you mind shooting this thing? And to me, it's just, you know, an opportunity for work, and it's an opportunity to direct something that I might be able to use on my reel down the line and have as a sample. And
Yeah.
so it's a gig, and I don't, you know, whatever it is, man, I'll shoot it. You know, if
That's really
it
neat.
keeps me busy when I'm not doing acting work, and it's you know, it also broadens your perspective and horizons as an actor as well. You have all these angles of experience for the film production business as well, and
That's right.
you can hone chops in producing and stuff is also during the process, and also writing, because you have to go over the scripts and make sure that, you know, that everything is basically in order, that the things are working pretty well, and in terms of the actual scripts and things like that. So all this stuff you get to work, and to cultivate the ability to interpret those things and make the changes that have to be made, and to revise them if necessary,
Right.
to rewrite them if necessary. So
Yeah.
you have the opportunity for those things to arise by working on those projects. So
Yeah. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. Any plans to? I've read. You know, I read your couple of issues of the Deep Space Nine comic book. Any plans to kind of revisit that area?
it depends. You know, it depends on whether somebody, you know, approaches me about that, about doing it or not. I don't, you know.
I'll make some calls.
Yeah. Whenever, you know, if anything comes up and they say, hey, come on, do this Star Trek Online or whatever it might be, whatever, you know, as long as if they're coming to me, you know, all of that stuff is just, a lot of it's work. It's just gigs, you know.
Yeah, it's just work. Yeah.
And I'll book them if if everything is sound, and they've got it together, and they got, you know, it's just a gig for me, you know.
Yeah.
They're gigs.
No, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Well, so before you go, Tim, where can everybody find all this great stuff that you're doing, your music, everything? Where can they go to find that?
Everything right now is on my website. Some of it isn't, because I haven't updated it in a couple, 3 months, but there's a lot of stuff that I post on my website, which is timrusswebpage.com.
Yep.
timrusswebpage.com. And in fact, I'm always on Twitter with the projects that I'm doing. I'm posting them.
Yeah, you're really good about Twitter. You're on there.
And Facebook as well. I will post the stuff if I have an appearance or have something going on. I'll post that stuff. Yep. So people can find me there. So between Facebook and Twitter, Facebook is just my name, Tim Russ, and Twitter is.
You've got a YouTube page as well.
Yeah, I've got a YouTube channel as well, and all the stuff that I've done or working on, if it's a trailer or something else, I upload those. So I've got there. Tim Russ 2 is the Twitter handle, and I'm there. So I will definitely post things whenever they come up. I've got an online convention I'm doing this Saturday coming up, the 14th, at 11 o'clock a.m. Pacific time. I'll be on online Trek. For this convention. I'll post that on Twitter. I'll retweet that on Twitter today, and everybody can figure out where I'm going to be. So that's a cool show. That's a little.
Yeah, it is. That one's awesome. Are you appearing with anybody?
No, well, yeah. There's going to be some other cast, not my cast members. There's other people who are from other shows and projects, and there's a list of them too. But as far as my own cast from my show, no, I think it's just me.
Yeah.
So,
all right, we got the best one.
Yeah, and we'll be talking tech and science all at the same time, so it's cool. Yeah, it'll be cool.
Well, yeah, Tim, thank you so much. This has been just a blast. I'm excited to listen to the work you did yesterday with Jennifer, and this has just been a lot of fun with me. So thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully one of these days we can have you back.
You got it, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Take care.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right. Talk to you soon.
All right, man. Bye-bye now.
Tim Russ, how about that? That was pretty awesome. What a great guy. And so, I mean, he's busy. He makes me feel like I'm sitting around not doing anything. I mean, that man is busy. He's with his music, his acting. He does voicing for video games. You know, he's doing smaller projects. He's doing the voice work for us. he's directing, he's writing, you know, he's working with his daughter, he's, you know, and then he's got his astronomy. So he's just a busy guy. And oh, by the way, he scuba dives. He didn't, you know, that's way down the list. So he was just like, I don't scuba dive, but, you know, so he's just a really neat guy. And that was a great conversation. So really enjoyed that. Hopefully you did as well. So this is I mentioned it at the beginning. This is a big day for us at Too Opinionated. It's our first episode that we have recorded in our new podcasting studio. We don't even have the furniture in yet, so it's still pretty bare bones. But we're in the studio. The Wi-Fi is working. We didn't have any problems, so that's an exciting day. One that we've been working on since we started the podcast almost 2 years ago. So thank you for everybody that has helped us get there. If you would like to contribute to the program, I mean, we're just a small family operated show. You know, it's me, it's my two sons that appear on the show. You know, my wife and my daughter do some marketing for us. My other daughter does sales for us. It's just us. And we're located in a small town in West Virginia. You know, we've built this up into something I never would have imagined. And we're doing everything we can to bring out quality and to do good interviews. And I really hope that you're enjoying those. And we have a lot of big names to come, although tough to top Tim Russ. That was pretty awesome. But if you would like to help us out, you can go to patreon.com/MeisterCon. We don't expect you to do it for nothing. We'll give you some early access to episodes or some bonus material there, but even just a few dollars is a big help to us. So please do that. Please check us out on Facebook under MeisterCon. Give us a like. And you can also find our website, MeisterCon.com. It's got all of our episodes, audio and video up. And it also has some pretty awesome blogs from Brett. He such a good writer. He's got some great stuff there, so you can check that out. And I think that's it. Thank you so much for listening, for watching. Please come back, and we'll see you again next time. Bye, everybody.